DIRT TRAX TV is sponsored by Polaris, think outside. CanAm, follow your path. Yamaha, revs your heart. And by Honda Power Sports, power your dreams, whatever the terrain.
When Polaris introduced the Northstar package back in 2016, it quickly became one of the most desirable units in their lineup. The idea that you could have a utility side-by-side with a completely sealed cab that was quiet and had heat was something people wanted really bad. And Polaris, of course, delivered the way they always do, by exceeding everyone's expectations. Then, the very next year, in 2017, they once again exceeded expectations by introducing the industry's first side-by-side with a factory-installed, fully sealed cab that included not just heat, but air conditioning as well. It didn't take long for people to see the endless list of practical benefits and uses for this setup. You can work all day without getting too hot or too cold. You stay dry in the rain and snow. You stay clean when you're in the mud. Stay warm when it's cold and cold when it's hot. Pick any adverse condition, anyone will do, and the Northstar levels the playing field to the point where you simply don't have to stop riding. We had a 2017 Ranger Northstar press unit that we kept for an entire winter here in Ontario, Canada. Now that winter was a particularly cold one with many days dropping below 20 Celsius, and it was also a big snow year. I plowed my driveway nearly every day that winter in a t-shirt while my neighbors were all bundled up in pretty much every piece of winter gear they had. It was fantastic. There has never been a question about the Northstar being a must-have for anyone looking to get a job done. It absolutely is. But as we've talked about many times, the Ranger is surprisingly capable and fun for trail riding as well. And the benefits of the Northstar package carried over perfectly into the recreational side of things. I could take my kids out for a ride and didn't have to worry about them getting wet or muddy, or worse, and I'm not talking a little bit worse, I'm talking catastrophic, world-ending kind of worse, without them getting a bug on them. The Northstar Ranger's cab keeps all the bad stuff out and all the passengers inside cool as cucumbers, which is why we were all surprised it took Polaris so long to release a full-on recreational side-by-side with the Northstar treatment. When it finally did hit the ground, the Expedition Adventure was a super cool side-by-side, even in base model trim. But of course, the Northstar package is definitely the one you want. For the first time ever, I didn't have to convince my family to go for a ride when conditions were less than perfect. In fact, my wife wanted to get out on the trail and would suggest it as a great activity on cold or rainy days, all thanks to the Northstar's sealed cab and HVAC system. In the Expedition Northstar, she could keep the temperature exactly where she wanted it and stay perfectly clean and dry all day. But furthermore, being inside the cab made it easier to talk to each other on the trail. An activity that typically would discourage conversation became a very social one. From day one, the Northstar package was always premium. It included the 7S display standard, as well as all the other bells and whistles that were available for a Ranger at the time. Now though, Polaris has taken all of its Northstar-equipped side-by-sides to a whole other level. The XD1500 Northstar is, without a doubt, the most luxurious side-by-side we have ever set foot in. To put it in automotive terms, the XD1500 Northstar is akin to a Denali or a King Ranch from GM or Ford. Now this brings up another interesting topic of discussion: price. It's no secret that side-by-side prices have been on a steady incline. There are numerous reasons for this, and some of them have nothing to do with the side-by-side industry at all. Polaris's Northstar-equipped side-by-sides are all at the very top end of their respective price ranges. To put it simply, they are expensive. But let's look at this from a more rational perspective. Sales data clearly indicates that over 60% of side-by-sides in the industry leave the dealership with a full cab enclosure pre-installed. Having a cab system installed on a side-by-side that doesn't come with it is a very costly upgrade. This means that over 60% of buyers are willing to spend considerable money on top of the price of their new side-by-side to be better protected from the elements and enjoy a more comfortable riding experience. If you do the math on what it would cost to put a full cab system with just heat onto a regular Ranger or Expedition, you'll see that it would be significantly more expensive than just upgrading to the NorthStar package that also includes air conditioning, a 7S display, and a whole long list of other upgrades. Add to this the fact that dealers almost never sit on NorthStar units. If they aren't already pre-sold when they arrive, they sell immediately. It's the less expensive units that tend to sit for a while before selling. So what does this prove? Well, it proves that while these units are definitely expensive, they actually represent a pretty significant value to a large number of side-by-side buyers who are willing to pay for protection from the elements, premium features, premium fit and finish, and the ability to ride their side-by-side anytime, anywhere, in any condition. Polaris was first to the full HVAC party and have steadily continued to innovate and improve their NorthStar models year after year. Furthermore, they are the only company producing full cab HVAC equipped units in multiple categories. The XD1500 in the super utility class, the Ranger XP in the utility class, and the Expedition in the recreational class. Now when I sit and I ponder about what Polaris side-by-side deserves to get the NorthStar treatment next, I think you'll agree with me that the Razor simply makes the most sense. In fact, I think it would be a complete out-of-the-park home run.
Trail Tech is sponsored by Princess Auto. Make it work.
You know, here at DIRT TRAX, 10 years ago, we set out to prove that a Yamaha Grizzly could be turned into a very capable sport utility ATV, something like a Polaris Scrambler or a CanAm Renegade, and the results that we came up with were really surprising. And now, 10 years later, we thought, why not do an anniversary build to see if the new 2024 Yamaha Grizzly is still a worthy ATV to make a bit sportier. And if all the changes it's seen over the last decade produce an even better, sportier Grizzly when we pull out all the stops and really have some fun. Now, keeping in mind that, like our first build, we aren't touching engine internals and the frame is staying stock, but otherwise, it's pretty much no holds barred. So the first step that I took, and you may have seen this on social media, was to remove some of the plastics. I did this 10 years ago as well, and it's quite surprising how much sportier a Grizzly can look with just a little bit of Dremel work. By removing the racks and a whole bunch of plastic and trying to stick to the stock cut lines in those plastics, it gave a pretty cool edgy look. Step 2 was to take off a bunch more front bumper parts and get ourselves to a place that still offered some protection, but a more Scrambler and Renegade look. I think we were able to accomplish that, and we also dropped almost 30 pounds of weight in the process. Now, making the Grizzly sportier is key, but it also needs to have the functionality. And so I knew that the first thing I needed to do was call D3 Off-Road Fabrication in Southern Ontario to really get this build started off right. We did a WR700 feature that was like it was exactly 10 years ago actually. We're doing sort of a throwback build with the new vehicle, and this one is just so much nicer. Like everything's evolved, everything's better, fit and finish, quality, you know, the ergonomics of it, the suspension, everything is so much better. The engine's better. Yep. So we thought, why not do a throwback build and do the exact same thing?
But better.
Yeah, the last time I took a YFZ 450 front bumper that we had kicking around in the shop. It was like
just
sitting there.
Just a little tube thing.
Oh yeah, dude. It was the small one that came up and had like the two little wings on it.
Yeah.
So having you do this for us is going to be awesome. I think it's really cool to be able to get rid of the factory bumper and kind of, you know, let you do your thing up front.
Yep. Make it look good and work good.
Yeah, more functional. That'll be cool. You were talking about Nerf style footwell, and we saw the one outside. It looks pretty awesome.
Yep, so I can make some plates in here. So we have a new technology here at the shop. It's a 3D laser scanner. Cool. So I can actually laser scan this and try and make it fit really, really well.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be cool. It'll finish it off a bit and just add some style and some functionality too. So that'll be great.
Yeah, no, that'll be sweet.
After we got our custom parts back from D3, we sent them to JP Powder Coating in Kitchener, Ontario to have them sprayed in a nice textured black finish that's going to be super durable. This is the most durable powder coat that we could get and will ensure that the parts fit in nicely and stay looking good for years to come. Now, all of them are aluminum anyway, so even if we do get some bumps and bruises, they won't bleed rust and they're very light. The powder coating turned out really nice, and the parts look totally custom, but built and coated to a professional high-end standard. These two shops really pulled out all the stops for us and delivered first-class custom upgrades. And to show you just how nicely all of this stuff fits up to the Grizzly, I'm gonna go ahead and mount it right now. So let's get this build started. The front bumper we wanted to have a bit more attitude, but more importantly functionality, to not leave the front of the Grizzly completely exposed. The D3 bumper is strong but light, and it fits in with the stock lines of the Grizz front end. We can grab from this point if needed, and we don't have to worry about hurting anything, as this bumper is masterfully welded and very sturdy. And while I'm speaking about sturdy, the front fenders on the Grizzly don't move as much as our first build, the WR700, which if you watch that, you'll realize flapped around like they wanted to take off. But I wanted to make sure that this time, whether we keep the headlights or get rid of them, I had some secure fenders up front. So D3 made me these nice little brackets that are going to get rid of that problem we experienced first time round. Again, D3 made us a custom fender bracket that bolts the original location where the rack mounted and gives us a bolt-through mounting point in the fender to hold them secure. They go on easy and fit up perfectly and will ensure that the front fenders don't start looking like Dumbo's ears. Now the part that I'm most excited about is the custom fabbed footwells. I've used ones like this before in our mud build, but they were built out of steel and for a much different purpose. D3 built us these beautifully laser cut and welded aluminum footwells and designed them off the 3D mapped stock footwells so that everything lines up perfectly. All the stock plastic mounts match up, and even the foot pads that they designed are in the proper location for your foot positioning. The black's textured powder coat is perfect, and to be honest, this whole piece is of the quality that if you told me that this was a factory GYTR part, I'd believe you, except it has the D3 logo. These guys did such a great job with these. We have increased protection and strength with a fully custom look that really didn't gain in weight almost at all because of the aluminum and the cutouts. And if we do choose to race this thing in the end, I feel confident this is a better, safer footwell. Working with companies like D3 Off-Road Fabrication as well as JP Powder Coating means that we get really high quality products in the end. Now make sure you stay tuned to all of our future build series, and in particular the next one, which is going to feature suspension, wheels and tires, as well as underbody protection.
CanAm is the undisputed industry leader in specialty mud-specific ATVs and side-by-sides. Nobody does it better. Now, I know that's a bold statement, but it is true. Their lineup of mud-specific XMR ATVs is extensive and includes the Outlander XMR 700, XMR 850, and XMR 1000R models, as well as the Renegade XMR 650 and 1000R. The Outlander 700 is in the newest chassis with a single-cylinder engine, the 850 is in the standard chassis, and the 1000R is in the Max 2-up chassis but without the 2-up seat. The Renegade models are all in the standard Renegade short chassis. And we've tested all of these models over the years, but this season we got our hands on a brand new Outlander 850 XMR. Its specs closely mirror those of the standard Outlander 850 with a few notable upgrades, which include 30-inch ITP Kryptide tires, a rad relocate with raised engine and clutch intakes, raised foot pegs, extended mudguards, heavy-duty front and rear bumpers, and a 3,500-pound winch. The Outlander's 850 engine makes 78 horsepower and its throttle has 3 modes. Tri-mode DPS is standard, as is Visco 4-lock auto-locking front diff. Now I want to talk about how the Outlander XMR 850 actually performs in the mud. And while I do have quite a bit of experience here, I don't have nearly as much as our in-house mud expert, Graham. Graham usually resides behind the camera, but on evenings and weekends you can always find him somewhere out in the mud on one of our test units. Nobody here at DIRT TRAX has more experience with mud-specific ATVs than Graham, so I figured, why not just ask an expert?
So the biggest thing that sets this apart, this is a 78 horse. This is the 850cc XMR. This is the only big bore XMR Outlander in the shorter chassis. The longer chassis definitely have their benefits, They're a little bit smoother, a lot more stable. But the benefits to a shorter chassis, they're just way more playful. You can wheelie them, you can do all kinds of stuff, where it's a lot harder to do with the longer chassis machines. So this one has the original XMR gearing. You have 30-inch cryptids on it, so that changes things a little bit. I really didn't notice that much of a deterrent to the motor. Like, it's still handled great.
Basically, with the tire size that they're working with here, the 30-inch, the gear ratio is good, it works good. But what you've said to me in the past is that if you were to up the tire size, that's when that lower gear ratio is gonna be pretty necessary. The one you get in the Renegade, the 1000 Outlander.
Yeah, like if you're going up to like a 32 or 34 Assassinator tire, that changes everything. They turn those tires and get that wheel spin to get you through the mud hole, especially that skaggy kind of bottomless stuff. That's where you really notice it. With this, you can still get wheel spin going, you just have to get more of a run at it. Torque of that 78 horsepower, it's still one of my favorite motors.
So you and I actually have some pretty extensive experience with these Cryptide tires. We've tested them, both of us, on other vehicles. You've spent obviously a lot of time on this vehicle. What do you think of these Cryptide tires, the 30-inch? How do they work?
They're good in the mud and then really good on trail. They're not harsh. Like normally a mud tire, your spacing is a lot more. You get that kind of tractor tire feel, and it knocks your teeth out. These tend to be a lot closer, so you don't get that same effect. The clear out's still good when you're in the mud. You're not bunging up the tires.
Dirt Tracks has been sponsored by Kawasaki. Let the good times roll. And BRP Performance Exhaust, built for the victory lap. And by Hercules Tire. Ride in our strength.
So one of the biggest unique aspects of an XMR all through CanAm's lineup is their rad relocate and the snorkels.
The rad relocate, especially if you're riding all day and you're in the mud, you're getting cool. But the moment you gotta hop on the trail to get home, you're gonna be glad it's up here. Because you're gonna be in limp mode the whole way home.
So it actually does have a positive effect on keeping mud off the radiator for the most part, and also aids in how you can clean it. And how do the snorkels work? They're up high here, they're right at the gauge pod. How do they actually function? Is this a good position for them?
I think if you're any higher than the seat, you're in trouble. So
considering that we've talked about this being a good crossover ATV that does trail and mud, having the snorkels in this location makes more sense because any snorkels that are up high are gonna make it less trailable.
Yeah, you're gonna lose your sight lines.
Yeah. So the next thing I want to talk about is some of the extra features you get with an XMR. You also get HD front and rear bumpers, and it comes with a 3,500 pound winch pre-installed. But what are your thoughts on this setup?
Overall, I think it's a great looking design for it, and added protection, especially if you're in the mud. You're usually in the sticks and you're bashing into small trees. And
now the winch though?
The winch itself is great. I've had to use it a couple times. The only downside, never have been a fan of the cable. Like, it gets twisted, and when you go to bring it back in, you can't free spool it back out usually. You might use it like twice.
Just to factor in an extra couple $100 to replace the cable with synthetic cable and you'll be good to go. The winch itself is fine, it's the cable that's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some things, if any, I guess, that you think could be improved? What could CanAm do better?
So I wouldn't say it would be so much an improvement because the shocks on this are really good.
They're Showas.
Yeah, and like they have a good reputation. It would be cool to have like a QS3.
I agree with you. Having 3-position shocks on this from anybody, it doesn't have to be QS3s, it could be Showa 3 positions. Just basically having some compression adjustability will allow you not only to tune how it rides in the muds more specifically for you, but also give you that versatility in and out of the mud. What kind of a rider is it best suited for in your opinion?
So this is what I'd call your medium mud bike. So you got your extreme in the Renegade, and then you have this. You're kind of like 70-30. You're 70 in the mud, 30 on trail. You still have that ability to trail ride it. And then also I can use it on the farm because, like, let's face it, still is a rack. It still has all this.
Still has a trailer hitch.
Yeah, it still has all the usability of an ATV and all the fun of a mud ATV.
This is just, generally speaking, a really good, versatile, mud-specific, yet multi-purpose ATV. So I think Can-Am has really knocked this one out of the park.
Yeah, this is a great bike, and I would love to have one of these in my garage one day.
So you're the perfect customer for this bike.
Oh yeah,